All right, what you're about to hear is, well, it's one of the most audacious and frankly almost unbelievable true stories to come out of the Second World War. We're talking about a tale of loyalty that just shattered all the rules and a rescue mission that by all accounts was physically impossible.
So let's set the scene. The date is August 18th, 1944. We're deep in the war now. Allied forces are pushing their way across France after the Normandy breakout. But the air war, it is still brutally, brutally dangerous. Every single time these pilots go up, it's a roll of the dice. And our story begins right here, not with some grand strategic plan, but with a sudden, unfolding crisis. You've got a P-51 Mustang, one of the absolute best fighters of the war, and it's plummeting out of the sky. It's heading for a wheat field, a full 20 miles behind German lines. You have to imagine, for the pilot inside, it looks like his fate is sealed.
So, how did we even get to this point? I mean, this wasn't some swirling dogfights. No, this was a trap. A brutally effective ambush that caught some of America's very best pilots completely and totally by surprise. Okay, so the pilot in that crippled plane? That was a guy named Major Burt Marshall. And listen, he wasn't just any pilot. He was a fighter ace. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, an ace is the best of the best. It's a pilot who has at least 5 confirmed kills. Losing an ace? Man, that's a massive blow. Not just to morale, but to your actual combat effectiveness. And get this, Marshall had become an ace in the shortest time in his entire fighter group's history. That's how good he was. He was aggressive, a natural leader. I mean, this is exactly the kind of guy the Allies could not afford to lose. See, the Germans had become absolute masters of concealment. And on this particular day, they hid some really powerful anti-aircraft guns inside a railway car. But here's the dirty part. They marked it with a red cross. So as Marshall's flight swept in low to attack, the sides of the car just dropped away. The trap was sprung, and Marshall's plane was hit. Just instantly. Now, watching his commander's plane get shredded was Marshall's 21-year-old wingman, a lieutenant named Royce Priest. And right there, in that split second, Priest faced a choice. A choice that would not only define his life, but would create a legend. You have to understand, the rules in this situation were crystal clear. I mean, every single pilot knew them by heart. If you see a friendly plane go down, you note the location, you radio in the coordinates for search and rescue, and then you get the heck out of there. What you do not do under any circumstances is attempt a rescue yourself. So, as Priest is watching Marshall's Mustang fall out of the sky, an order crackles over the radio, and it was probably from Marshall himself, saying, "Return to base." But Priest, he made a different call. He wasn't about to leave his commander behind. He decided, "I'm going in." Look, what Priest was about to try, it wasn't just against the rules. It was considered physically impossible. You really got to get this. The P-51 Mustang is a single-seat fighter. There's no passenger seat. There's no back seat. There is simply no room for a second person. Period. So Royce Priest ignored the orders, he ignored the odds, and he pointed the nose of his own P-51 right down toward that same French wheat field where his commander had just crash-landed. Let's just break down how insane this plan was, if you can even call it a plan. Step 1, land a high-performance fighter in a rough field. Step 2, find his commander before the German patrols, who are definitely on their way, find him first. Step 3, squeeze 2 grown men into a cockpit built for 1. And step 4, somehow take off again. The whole thing is just madness. So he lands, and as Marshall runs towards him, he's yelling, furiously ordering him to take off and leave. Priest does something just incredible. He climbs out of the cockpit, unbuckles his own parachute and his survival dinghy, and he just tosses them onto the wing. The message couldn't have been clearer. We both get out of here, or neither of us do. Just try to picture the space they were working with. 38 inches. That's it. That is the entire width of the cockpit. We're talking about 2 full-grown men in full flight gear trying to cram themselves into a space that's barely wider than your average doorway. It's just mind-boggling. Somehow, they got airborne. I mean, it was a miracle in itself. They were scraping branches off the belly of the plane as they barely cleared the trees. But their ordeal? Oh, it was far from over. Getting off the ground was just the beginning. Now they had to fly 200 miles back to England in a crippled, dangerously overloaded plane. I mean, think about the list of things going wrong here.
The plane is dangerously overweight, so it's sluggish and hard to fly. The engine is literally packed with wheat from the field, so it's overheating like crazy. The radiator got damaged and is leaking precious coolant. Oh, and to top it all off, they have no parachutes. If anything goes wrong now, it's over. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong.
So for almost 2 hours, they just stared at that engine temperature gauge, and they watched it just creep up, up into the red zone. Both of them knew that at any second, that legendary Merlin engine could just seize up completely. And if that happened, they'd become a falling rock with absolutely no way to bail out. And the physical toll on these guys was just immense. Priest was basically sitting on Marshall's lap. For the entire flight, Marshall's legs were so compressed, so crushed beneath him, that he lost all circulation. When they finally, and I mean miraculously, landed back at their base, Marshall tried to get out and just collapsed right there on the wing. He couldn't even walk. So, the two men were safe. But the story, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. See, Priest hadn't just saved his commander. He had also directly disobeyed a lawful order in a combat zone. And now, the top brass of the 8th Air Force had a very, very serious problem on its hands. And this whole dilemma landed on the desk of one man, Major General James Doolittle. Now, this is a guy famous for his own daring, rule-bending raid on Tokyo. And he had a tough call to make. The arguments were strong on both sides. I mean, do you court-martial the guy for insubordination to maintain discipline? Or do you give him a medal for an act of incredible bravery that saved a valuable pilot? What do you do? Doolittle actually thought about it for 3 days. The entire command was just holding its breath. The big question was, is Royce Priest going to be a hero, or is he going to be a prisoner? And the verdict? Well, it was a brilliant compromise. Lieutenant Royce Priest was not going to be court-martialed. Instead, he was going to receive the Distinguished Service Cross. That's the nation's second highest award for valor. You know, when Doolittle actually presented the medal, he spoke to Priest personally, and what he said just perfectly sums up the whole paradox of this situation. He told Priest that what he did was, simultaneously, the bravest and the most foolish action he had ever witnessed. Essentially, the medal was for the bravery, and holding back the top award, the Medal of Honor, that was for the foolishness. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? Priest broke every single rule in the book. But in doing so, he upheld a deeper, unwritten code of loyalty to his comrade. And it just makes you wonder, when does breaking the rules become the ultimate act of duty?